one of those is like it's illegal to have a pig cross the street on every fifth Saturday or something like that.
Yeah.
You can go to these websites and look up these crazy laws, and it's probably just an old law, and this guy's just a spiteful old man.
And he just doesn't like him because he's an atheist, and he's going back through these laws and saying, oh, hey, that actually is a law. You can't be on it.
Yeah, I mean, whether you want to admit it or not, I classify atheism as a religion. It's the religion of not believing there's not a God, not believing in a God. I mean, just because you don't believe in a higher power doesn't make you not religious. I guess I'm getting kind of away from the issue, I guess. But the point is that just because they don't believe in a God doesn't. That's just stupid.
Yeah. All right, we're going to go to a song, and we will be back right after this with a discussion about whether or not Miranda rights should be rewritten. Be back right after this. All right, welcome back to Informavores. Our next topic is a court case that was up at the Supreme Court, and what it ended up debating is whether or not there should be an addition to the Miranda rights are so well known, such as you have the right to remain silent, you have that thing, and they wanted to add the statement, you have the right to talk to a lawyer before answering any of our questions. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed for you without cost and benefit before any questioning. Without cost and before any questioning. You have the right to use any of these rights at any time you want during this interview. The end of that is the new part, because apparently they feel that a lot of people misunderstood and were not aware that they had a lawyer at any point in the interrogation. So my first question, do you agree that the change is necessary?
I think it's necessary because a lot of these people who need to use these rights aren't the most highly educated, and they might not actually know about the rights they have. So it needs to be explicit of what rights they do have when the police officers are telling them what rights they have. If it's a little vague, they really shouldn't be responsible for not knowing their rights.
No, I would agree. I think that's a good point. The reason they brought this up was I believe it was in New York or something like that. Someone had said that they can only talk to their lawyer before the actual questioning process and stuff. And I don't know that was deliberate, or if they meant to just say only before, but I believe it's Justice Scalia brought up a good point. He said, is that really going to change everything by having your lawyer there? And I don't know. I could see how it could and how it couldn't, the people that are interviewing are probably nervous, so they might say something that could be misconstrued or something like that. So I think it's a good change.
Yeah. However, I would agree. And another great point that was made was by Justice Stephen Breyer. And he said, aren't you supposed to tell this person that unlike a grand jury, you have a right to a lawyer with you during interrogation? And he just said excuse me. Where does it say in this warning you have the right to have the lawyer? So he's just pointing out how huge of a hole there is and how you have this crucial right that nobody really knows about. Mm-hmm. So why not add it? I mean, I don't really
Yeah, I don't see why there's a big issue of why shouldn't all your citizens know what rights you do have?
Mm-hmm. Did you both know about this, that you could have a lawyer for your interrogation?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I did, but the reason I think that's because I watch a lot of TV and I watch a lot of the cop dramas, so I know that there's always an issue with always having a lawyer there, because I want my lawyers always on the show. But if you don't watch all those shows, I'm not sure how you're supposed to know that you have that right.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, that's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, but is it really that big of a deal to change it? I mean, it's an extra, 2 sentences?
Yeah, I mean the cop just has to practice. But there's one other addition that they were discussing, and this could be interesting. The line, you have the right to remain silent, which is what I use as the example. And Justice Alito brought up, once you break your silence, there is nothing in there that says you have the right to resume your silence. So do you guys think that after you start to speak, you no longer should have a right to just be quiet again? After you start to kind of give your story? Because that's another aspect of this case that's going on.
Well, there's always the Fifth Amendment where you don't have to, you can't incriminate yourself.
But how many people know about the Fifth Amendment?
I bet it's more than you think, because of the phrase, I plead the Fifth. They could ask their lawyer what that means. But,
well, and everybody knows you have the right to remain silent. I mean, that's the one part of the Miranda rights. It seems like everybody knows, because if you watch cop dramas, like you said, they usually get in about the first 2 sentences before they cut away to whatever's next in the story.
Well, I mean, you have the right to remain silent until you're, there's no reason that they can't literally force you to talk. So I guess why not?
I just thought it was interesting.
That is a weird argument.
All right, we're going to move on to our next topic. Now, President Obama wants to turn around the schools. Marcus, could you elaborate a bit more on this? Because I think you have the bullet points.
I do.
Okay.
The Obama administration wants to spend $3.5 billion to push local officials around the country to close failing schools and reopen them with new teachers and new principals. Him and the Education Secretary, Arnie Duncan, hope to see the 5,000 worst schools, or about 1% of the United States schools, turn around in the next 5 years. Now, the controversy is about the way he wants them turned around. He gives them they must do one of the following 4 options. 1, fire the principal and at least half the staff and reopen the school with new personnel. 2, turn a school over to a charter school operation or other management organization. 3, close the school and send students to a higher achieving school in the district. 4, replace only the principal and take other steps to change how the school operates. So what do you guys think about that? Is that the right way to go about changing our school districts?
I think there is definitely a need to close some of these schools, but I'm not exactly sure these 4 steps are the best way to do it, such as replace only the principal and take other steps to change how the school operates. If you have a failing school and you replace only the principal and you kind of change how the school operates, I'm not sure that's going to actually do a whole lot to change it from a failing school to a vastly successful one.
My argument is, how much of this is the teacher's fault and how much of this is just the students not wanting to take the time to do this and the parents not really enforcing them to do that. Because I'm sure a lot of these 5,000 schools are going to be in the inner city of big cities, and we all know that those are some of the worst districts because of the parenting and the fact that they don't really enforce what the school teaches.
Mm-hmm. No role models or anything like that to push the students. I would agree that there are some substantial issues with this. However, the suggestion of bringing in like a charter manager, somebody who's run charter schools and can run a much more efficient system with better standards, I believe would actually be able to give a cold view of the situation and could make the cuts and things like that.
But how do you pay for that? Because that's not going to be cheap. Because you can't charge those students because they're probably in poorer neighborhoods.
Exactly.
I think this is one thing that we should spend the money on, though, because education is one of the most important things. So if it's going to cost $3.5 billion, I think that is one thing we should actually pay for.
Mm-hmm. And that does not sound like very much.
Yeah, that's
in comparison
a scary
to
thing.
Most things we spend on.
Especially recently.
Yes.
Well,
so I would agree.
That's only 5,000 schools, so that's only 1%, though. So what do you use this just as a trial and then see what works the best? Or?
Yeah, well, you start with the worst, and then once you get those going and at least up to the other standard, then you can start to deal with the other standard, and then you can make us an even greater you can have an even greater educational system. But you have to deal with these bottom ones first, and I think that you don't want to actually get too overly involved and try to do a ton of things at once, because you need to this is 5,000 schools. Mm-hmm. That might not be all of them, but that's a lot of schools to reform, and some of them are most likely in an awful situation and in terrible condition.
Well, and each one's going to have to be custom made. You can't just do a fix-all for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And once you mess with 5,000 worst and you start to reform the other ones, you might not need as drastic measures as you do for these worst schools. And you can try other things to reform the not so good schools, but still not failing.
Yeah, and perhaps by going through and reforming all these, you're going to create some kind of system, some kind of box to work through. I know that it will have to be customized, but you can create a system that customizes it.
Yeah. I mean, my biggest thing is how much of this is a school issue and how much of this is a culture issue. I mean, because you can only change a school so much, but I think if you're really
what
good,
would you propose doing?
I see. That's the thing. I don't. There's nothing that I can say because I don't know. But I just think that they have to be aware that you can't just change the school. You're going to have to change some of the cultural things there, and that's not an easy undertaking, especially for 5,000 different things.
I think they're aware, just they don't know how to change it. So
it's a tough thing to think about. So
they're doing the best they can with just fixing the schools.
Yeah, you really need to go out and talk to the parents. I mean, you might almost have some people start to go door. You could have people go door to door and just talk to people